Welcome to Be Better Thursdays, a video every Thursday to inspire you to be the highest version of yourself with strong vida. Be better every day. Hi everyone, happy Be Better Thursday to you. Welcome back. I hope you had a great week. And on my last video of this relationship series, I talked about the importance to get rid of the ideal, imaginary, perfect partner that you have in your head. And I think that's one that one in particular has been digesting in my being for a long time. So I have it present, and doesn't mean that it doesn't come up, but what it means is that when it comes up, when I'm able to catch myself faster now, when I'm comparing my loved ones to my ideal person that they should be. And so I hope that you have practiced that, and if you have, let me know in the comments, and let me know what your experience has been. Now for this week, I have a really good one that I realized I didn't know I was going to do this video until I realized this talking to a friend the other day. And I think there is a point, there's a really big thing that could change your relationships forever, and it could change yourself forever, which is most importantly. And it's realizing that relationships are a place to grow. And that's actually the tag of this whole relationship series. But I want to dig a little bit deeper into that realization, and it is to make the decision, decide for yourself that the main priority reason why we get into a relationship is to grow. And when I mean to grow, I mean to really become a better presence on this planet, a beneficial presence on this planet, somebody that's capable to really tap into generosity, into humbleness, into giving, into beauty, into joy, into peace, into giving and providing that not only for yourself mainly, but also for the other person. And how do we do that? Why is that important, and how do we do that, and why aren't we all doing that? And I think what it is that we get into relationships for the wrong reason. Most of the time we get into a relationship because we have a strong need, and that is a really bad place to get into relationships. And I'm talking here about the ones you can choose. For example, your romantic relationships, but also your work relationships, your relationships with your friends, or your relationships with maybe somebody that you're doing a negotiation with. That doesn't necessarily mean your job or your daily job. And so I would suggest, or I would say, like, the worst relationships that I've had, no, I'll take that back. Not the worst relationships, but the times where I've been the most unconscious in a relationship, and the times where I've been the most going against everything. So everything has been really hard and challenging and suffering and pain, has been the times where I've chosen, or I've been practicing or active in a relationship where my priority there was to get something I needed. And that this is not always conscious. I would say most of the times is a default. It's sort of like what society pressures us into. Pressure might not be the word, but it sort of guides us through, oh, well, you have to get a job, you have to get married, you have to do all that. And we unconsciously go trying to find all that without really realizing why are we there, and what is the purpose? Why don't we say no, and why do we feel like we need it so much? And so I would say that if we look deeper into what a relationship is a means to see better who you are in reflection with the other person, or the other countership, or the other partner in that partnership. And so without that reflection, if you think about yourself as just a being that does not get in touch or in connection with anything else in your life, it's really hard to see and to perceive how are you going to react, and how are you going to reflect and show your qualities to other person, because the prompts are not there. And the reflection of who you are, it's not projecting to anything else. And now I'm not saying necessarily that relationships are the only means for growth. There's many other means for growth. But what I'm saying is, let's take full intentional purpose in our relationships and decide now that the relationships that we choose consciously to be in are mainly for the purpose to growth. And I would say add to that for the purpose of spiritually growth. Spiritual growth is important because spirit is our connection to our source, whatever source you want to call it. Even I would say, even if you don't believe in any God, or even if you don't believe in any source, I think it's pretty clear that there is a bigger and most empowering source that we all come from. There's an intelligence going around that has created us, because otherwise, how would you explain the human being? How would you explain our emotions? How would you explain everything you see in nature and who you? So there's obviously something bigger than us that has created us. And I think our spirituality is our connection to that source, our connection to what it is that's trying to express through us. And so as we practice, as we cultivate those spiritual practices, we get closer to that internal view of what that can be. And so going back to relationships, it doesn't really mean that you're going to sit in front of, you're going to sit with your partner and be like, okay, so let's grow together. That will be actually ideal, and that will be amazing. If both of you could be aware that the relationship is a means to grow, not only growing together, but growing yourself as an individual, that it's amazing. And you've seen couples and families and businesses that has reaped amazing benefits from that. But that is not definitely necessary. I think as long as you as an individual are committing to being inside that relationship just for a means to grow and be a better person yourself, that is already huge. Because that means that you are clarifying what other reasons why you're not in that relationship. And that is sort of like getting rid of the weed that grows around you and clarifies exactly and filters out exactly what to do in specific circumstances and where to go and how to make certain decisions when the time comes. I'll give you an example to give you a picture of this, what I'm saying. And I like to give examples where it's not a romantic relationship and it's not a relationship that you have chosen. Because people think it's only for, like it really works with everything. And so let's say a relationship of dad-daughter in this case. So I could choose consciously to say, I am going to be present in my relationship with my dad. And I'm going to use this relationship and all my interactions with loving care so that I can really find out what are my intentions and how I can be a better presence, not only in his life, but also in my life, and therefore in the world and everything I touch around it. How can I use that? And when I make that decision, that just opens up an awareness within me where when I see something that happens, when I see something that bothers me, when I see something that I don't like, it doesn't matter how big and how small it could be, I can start using my resources and my my awareness to see how I'm reflecting that and how I can be a better person and change that. We talked about the mirror law, to not take things personally. We've talked about many things in relationships. So starting to do that comes from the decision of this relationship is a growing relationship, a place where we're here to learn and to grow and to forgive and to listen and to acknowledge. And so those concepts will come more easily if that's the mindset that you have, versus a default relationship between a dad and a daughter that could be just full of expectations. And I think that's the key of default. When we are not awake and we are not conscious and not present and not really caring much, we're just living life a little bit off the edge without really realizing that everything we're seeing in our reality is a reflection of what we are projecting. When we're off that track, we are full of expectations, and we are going through relationships with needs that need to be satisfied, and expectations we have about the other person. My dad should be this, should be that, should never say this, should provide. A dad should do this and should never blah, and blah, blah. A daughter should always do this, should never do that. So we're full of do's and don'ts, shoulds and shouldn'ts, and there's no space to grow. There's no space to forgiveness there. There's no space for awareness, for presence, for getting a deeper connection, for getting closer to really having a relationship with the real person. If you think about it, when you're full of expectation, it's almost as if there is an extra persona right here in front of you that's having the expectations, and it's saying, hey, you should provide this. And the other person's having another persona saying, no, I shouldn't. And so the relationship is between egos. The two persons are really not having a relationship. They're not really meeting each other. All they can see is their expectations, and they're bouncing back like this. But when you decide, I am here to learn, I am here to be vulnerable, I'm here to be better, then when something bothers you about the other person, you start asking yourself, what is it that I am doing to reflect that in my life? If something is bothering me about this, then let me check what is it that I have in me that is projecting that. And you start figuring out other ways, and that's where growth comes into place. And that is when we feel much better because we're being beneficial for ourselves. Maybe in the learning moment we don't feel much better because we're things are coming up and we're healing them. But as we go through it through time, we realize that we are meeting the real person that it's out there, and that real person in the end is ourselves anyways, right? Because we are all one. And so that is the magnificent part of relationships, if we are awake to have a conscious one. So I hope you like this episode, and I hope this goes through your mind and maybe you think about it. Am I in this relationship for growth? Or am I not in this relationship for growth? It's really important that you ask that out of respect to yourself and out of respect for the other person. And in the end, because that is really one of the paths for self-transformation and self-elevation and joy and happiness. And isn't that what we all want? We all want to be loved, and we all want to be loving. So we want to experience love in the end. And what a better way than to consciously set up an intention in our relationships. So I hope you like this episode. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching our episode of Be Better Thursdays. If you would like more inspiration plus exclusive invitations and free resources to become better every day, please find the email list link in the description below this video. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, or just like it. See you soon, and remember to be better every day.